Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the SkillsFuture Festival X Smart Nation 2022 webinar series organized by SkillsFuture Singapore and Smart Nation Office. Today's webinar, entitled Embarking on a Tech Career, is organized in partnership with Wagon Singapore. I'm Celestine, and I'll be your host for this session. Today, we'll find out more about the different career paths available for various tech job roles such as digital consultant, product manager, data analyst, and front-end developer, and also covering the skills required to transit to these tech job roles, followed by a Q&A to wrap up the session. During the seminar, please feel free to type in your questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. The speaker will address them accordingly. Without further ado, let's welcome Melvin Lee, City Manager of Wagon Singapore. Melvin, please.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much, Celestine, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for taking time on a lovely Sunday afternoon to be with me here in this webinar on Embarking a Tech Career. So again, my name is Melvin Lee, and I'm the City Manager for Wagon in Singapore. So we are a global coding school that teaches web development and data science through immersive boot camps. All right, so let me share my screen. I got a presentation to share with all of you. Just give me a sec. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about embarking on a tech career and understand a little bit about what are the different type of job roles that are available in the tech sector. But before we even dive into what are the different job titles and roles that's available, let's talk about the future of work. And can I trouble everyone to actually take your mobile phone, scan the QR code on this link on this page over here, and then after that, you'll be brought to a site called Menti. And there is a question that appears before you, and that is what job titles available today did not exist 20 years ago. So in your opinion, what are the job titles that you see that are available today did not exist 20 years ago? So please scan the QR code, and then I just want to hear a little bit about what are some of the thoughts that participants actually have about, what are the jobs that previously they think, oh, it wouldn't exist it wouldn't exist. And then, but it did exist now, and it is now existing, right? Okay, so let me hear your thoughts, and I will be sharing my screen onto the poll. Just give me a second. Okay. All right, so for those of you who are on your computers, laptops, you can go to menti.com and use the code 8516727023. Okay. All right, so we have got machine learning. Wow, okay, it's starting to come up now. This word cloud is starting to gather all your inputs from the different participants. And it's forming a word cloud right now. You have got a YouTuber, social media marketer, data scientist, influencer, mobile app developer, machine learning. All right, let's see and wait for about maybe 5 more minutes for everyone to key in your inputs. So we have got 4 participants who have already keyed in, and then this is the word cloud that's forming now. Data scientist seems to be the biggest word right now, so it means that a lot of you are agreeing that the job title of data scientist, did not exist 20 years ago. All right, there's a new word here, fintech. There's also digital marketer. All right, city manager. Okay, social media marketer is a new word as well. It just came up. All right, we give it a little bit more, maybe 1-2 minutes more for those of you who are keying in your inputs. Wow, okay, there's one new word that came up, drone controller. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up this session for the poll. And we can see that there's a word cloud that's formed here with many different inputs from the participants. So you can see that the bigger the word is, that means the more commonality in terms of what most participants have input as part of their option. So data scientist seems to feature quite strongly. And then the rest of the words, I think, like for example, mobile app developer, social media marketer, city manager, YouTuber, drone controller, machine learning, digital marketer, influencer, fintech. These are also some inputs from participants regarding what job titles that are available today did not exist 20 years ago. All right. So I'm going to move back to my presentation over here. All right. And the future of work, think about this for a moment, right? 20 years ago, in 2002, all right, jobs such as a podcaster, live streamer, YouTuber, vlogger, all right, esports athlete, they are all very much unheard of. But you know what? In less than 8 years from now, all right, 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't even been invented yet, all right? And what this means is that the ability to gain new knowledge will be more valuable than the knowledge itself. And for all of us, essentially, as a summary, what this means is we need to get ready for a lifetime of skills training and retraining. All right, why is this so? This is because, right, the window of opportunity to reskill and upskill workers right now has become shorter in a new constrained labor market. All right, the top skills and skill groups which employers use as rising or see as rising in prominence right now in the lead up to 2025 would include things like critical thinking, analysis, problem solving, and self-management skills such as active learning, resilience, strength, stress tolerance, and flexibility. All right. So this is, in a nutshell, what the future of work is going to look like. The job titles that you saw, that you mentioned earlier on, that exist today did not exist 20 years ago. Imagine what 2030 would be like. There will be so much jobs that you can't imagine that, have not been that are not in existence today, but will be in a much later time. All right. So let's talk about the Singapore's booming tech sector. All right. The Singapore's ICT sector right now currently employs around 200,000 professionals. All right. By 2030, again, that's less than 8 years' time. All right. Another 60,000 tech professionals are needed to meet the growing demand. Okay. Now, in a commentary article, right, that was published in Today, written by Chu Han A and Jacqueline T. Lee, they mentioned that our education system, right, can only produce 2,800 ICT university graduates each year. Okay. This is definitely not enough to meet the demands for tech professionals by 2030. Why? Because if you take 2,800, you times 7 and times 8, it will bring you up to about 22,000, 23,000 tech graduates, all right, by then. So there's a gap of 30,000 tech professionals that still needed to meet the growing demand. And that is quite an opportunity, right, for job seekers. Okay. Now you got to imagine and understand that why is this happening? Why is there this gap? Okay. Because there is a soaring expectation for seamless digital experiences that have caused the global talent for that's caused a global shortage for talent in tech sector. And already, right, globally, there's a competition for tech talent, and companies with a huge war chest, that means they have a lot of money, they can attract a significant of tech professionals than those companies who have got a limited budget. So this is why the tech sector is a favorable and prospective job market, all right, for job seekers like you. Now you might be wondering, okay, so why are you telling me all this? How can I, as a potential job seeker, forge a career path in the tech sector? Now, even if you have no experience in tech or do not possess any tech-related qualifications such as a degree in computing science, it does not mean that you can't join the tech sector. Okay. Now, there is a variety of career paths in the tech sector, and some of the roles and responsibilities may be overlapping. If you want to join the tech sector, you have to know and you have to understand what are the different career paths that are available. And you've got to choose one that best matches your wealth of experience that you've garnered so far, that best matches your aspirations, and then work on getting there. Okay. So let me share with you what are the different career paths right now in the tech sector. And to begin, all right, before that, how do you choose a career path before I dive deep into the different path, right? So how do you actually choose a career path? And this doesn't apply only to just tech role, okay? This can also apply for non-tech related roles as well. So a career path depends on the following, right? You need to understand what are the skills that you have, what areas do you excel at in work or in school. All right, then after that, understand what are the areas that you're most interested in. Are you interested in problem solving? Are you interested in programming? Are you interested in design? So these are areas that contributes to what you think is an aspiring career path for you. The third thing you're gonna kind of need to understand is what are the education requirements that's required for the different roles that you are applying for in the tech sector. Some they do have formal educational qualifications that's required. Some they may not be. All right, and then last but not the least, you got to think about and consider your work experience, whether you have any past business experience, any past problem-solving experience that you can bring to the new role that you're going to embark on. All right, so these are the 4 considerations that you need to have and understand about yourself, right, before you can finally decide on a career path. So later on in this webinar, I'll be sharing with you the different career path, and from there you kind of understand, okay, so this particular career path, this particular role is what is needed in terms of the skill sets, and do you have them? Is that what you want to work towards too? So we'll dive a little bit more into that, all right? So the first career path that we talk about is the career path of developer. Now, the developer career path, right, is actually quite in demand right now. There's a lot of companies right now who are trying to hire or recruit developers in a team. All right. Now, for the developers pathway, there's actually 3 different roles to it. Okay. So the first role is actually the role of a front-end developer. What does the front-end developer do? So they actually deal with the interface and the user-facing systems. They develop the navigation, the interface, the visuals, and they focus a lot on user experience. So it is one position that is that looks after the aesthetics of a front-end application. So what do I mean by that? Say, for example, you visit a website, right? Google. The front-end web page that you see once you type in google.com is what we call the front end. Okay, so that is what the front-end developer do. They deal with the interface, the front-facing, client-facing kind of setup. And then they decide where to put the buttons, what the buttons, how they should look like, what kind of font size, font type to use, where the layout of the website should be. Okay, so this is the SkillsFuture Festival Singapore website. All right, so the front end is where you'll see the navigation menu. All right, this is where you click to the different web pages. You'll see the banner in the center, and then you also have got other features. These are all the front end, and the front end developer basically, programs and write codes to make sure that, okay, this particular banner, I want it to be placed in center, how many pixels by how many pixels, and etc. Okay. Now, what are the kind of qualifications that you need, if you want to be a front-end developer? To be honest, there isn't any formal qualification that's required, but you've got to have a strong interest in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, UI design. UI design stands for user interface. All right. So there will be certain terms that I use here in this webinar that may sound a little bit foreign to you. So my encouragement to you is, get a notebook or, open up a notepad right now, and then jot down some notes about, what kind of skills that's required. And then after this webinar, you go to do some research on your own and decide, okay, this is the kind of skills that I need to focus on in order to get to where I want to be. Okay, so just take up some notes during this webinar. I do highly encourage you that. Okay, so in terms of the learning path, some things that you might consider learning is JavaScript, React, front-end testing, SASS, and TypeScript. All right, and some of the similar job titles that you see that is in the job advertisements out there would be web developer, UI developer, or front-end engineer. Okay, so if you look at the job advertisements, right, and you see these job titles, basically it all means the same thing. It all means the same thing, right, which is a front-end developer role. Okay, now the second role for a developer is what we call the backend developer. So the backend developer, they build and they maintain the mechanisms that process the data and perform the actions on the websites. So they deal a lot with the server and database of the application, not so much the client. So the client is the user, right? So this one is the server. And basically they create the backframe that allows the front-end development to exist. So it does not mean that, right, you cannot create the front end without the back end, or you cannot create the back end without the front end. It really depends on the different user case studies and what is the product being used for. Okay, but you got to understand that in order for the front end to be available, you need to have infrastructure, right? So the backend developer actually creates the infrastructure, and then with the buttons that, for example, the front end developer places on the website, he or she would then the backend developer would then link the button to certain codes from the server, and then push out whatever information that's needed to you as the user. Okay. So what is the kind of qualification do you need to be a backend developer? To be honest, there is again none that is required, but you got to have a very strong interest in Ruby. So Ruby is actually a programming language, and Rails is a programming framework. You got to be interested in databases. you'll be handling lots and lots and lots of data. All right. So these are the three areas of interest that you got to have. And some of the learning path, all right, that you might want to embark on is testing, CI/CD. Okay, so CI stands for continuous improvement, and the other one, CD, is continuous deployment. All right. And then APIs is application programming interface. Docker is a containerization software platform, and a second backend language. So second backend language could potentially be Python, for example. All right, and some similar job titles would be software engineer, software developer, or DevOps engineer. These are all backend roles. All right, so if you look at the job advertisement again and you see like these different roles, you will see like software engineer, software developer, DevOps engineer. These are all pertaining to the backend developer role. But I have to say this, okay, that it does not mean that you actually will be if you see a software developer role that is being advertised, right, it does not mean that it's specifically front end or it's specifically back end. Sometimes it can be a mesh of both. All right, so just be aware about that. All right, the last role for the developer track is actually what we call the front end developer. Sorry, not front end. Sorry, it's full stack developer. So the full stack developer, right, is actually the jack of all trades. They work with the back end, the server side of the application. They also work on the front end, which is the client side. So they deal with the overlap between the front end and the back end. Now, for full stack developer, right, basically there will be companies, maybe smaller companies, right, they will hire like full stack developer to develop an application or software. Whereas for bigger companies, they would actually have a team of front end developers. They will also have a team of back end developers, and then again, like full stack developer, because they are kind of like a jack of all trades, they can then, how should I? They can then easily mesh or integrate themselves right within the front end and back end. So they are like the middleware. All right. So what do you need to be a full stack developer? Basically, again, no qualifications is required. All right. But you got to have a very strong interest in both front end and back end. All right. And the learning path that you want to embark on is testing, React. React is React.js, which is a framework. Also continuous integration delivery, APIs. All right. And then some similar job titles that you will find is software engineer, full stack engineer, or web developer. So these are the kind of job titles that's quite similar to the full stack developer role. So again, like I said, when you look at the backend developer, right, the job title that we see would be software engineer here. And then full stack developer you see is also software engineer. So you got to understand when you actually apply for a position, right? You got to understand, okay, what is the company really looking out for? Is it a full stack role, or is it solely a backend role, or is it a front end role? So you got to kind of be able to decipher that. Okay. So here's a summary of what I've just shared earlier on. What are different interest areas that is pertaining to each of these roles? All right. But here I want to point out 4 things. If you look at the middle table, the middle part of the table, right, where it talks about business, analytics, programming, UI, UX, I've actually ranked them from low, medium, and high. So if you ask me like, hey, I got no business experience before, can I actually be a developer? I would say yes, why not? Because you don't really need to have a lot of business experience to actually be a front-end developer or back-end developer, or even a full-stack developer. All right, but you got to have a very good analytical mindset. All right, so that's why for front-end developer it's medium. For back-end and full-stack it's definitely high. Okay, and I'll explain more because why. For a front-end developer, right, you focus a lot more on UI UX, which is why you see that in the last column there, second last column, I rank it as high. All right, you got to have the keen eye for details. You got to be very creative. You got to make sure that whatever front end, the website that you are building, it is user friendly. Okay, so that's why it's high. But if you look at like a backend developer, the UI UX factor is actually low because they don't have to deal with the front end. They only focus on the back end, making sure that databases are in sync and able to retrieve whatever details and information that's required and push it out to the front end. So they don't really need to have what do you call that? A lot of experience in UI UX. Okay, and then for a full stack developer, you see that analytics programming is high and high. UI UX is medium. Why medium? Because they also have to deal with the front end, not just the back end. They also have to make sure that the overall application that they're building is user friendly. Okay. So here are the recommended skills to explore online. If you are planning to be a developer, whether front end, back end, or full stack, these are the different skills that you can explore. Can take out a notebook and then just jot down some notes here, and then after that you can go and do some research after this webinar to equip yourself with these skills if this is the career path that you want to embark onto. Okay, the second career path that I'll be talking about is actually data. Now, data is an emerging field. We will see quite a lot of job advertisements that is available right now in the field of data. All right. Now, again, there's three different roles for data. Okay, so I'll start with data analyst. So what does a data analyst do? What do they actually perform? So they actually gather data from multiple sources. They analyze it to find correlation and pattern, and they create reports and compelling visualizations. So in essence, right, basically they collect all sorts of data, they clean it, then they organize this data, they consolidate, compile already, then they present. Okay, so there's a presentation element to it because they need to be able to show stakeholders what are the kind of data they've collected and why does it matter for the business. So what kind of qualifications do you need for a data analyst? There's no formal educational qualification that's required, but you got to have a strong interest in Python, SQL, and data analysis. Python and SQL, by the way, are programming languages or languages that we use to program databases. All right. And then some of the learning path that you might want to embark on is advanced SQL, business intelligence, data visualization, or A/B testing. Okay. Some of the similar job titles that you see for a data analyst role, right, could be a BI business analyst. BI stands for business intelligence, or a marketing analyst, or a product analyst. Okay. More often than not, what we see in the industry right now is there's a lot of demand for business analysts, because I think a lot of businesses, they're undergoing business transformation, and they're understanding that, hey, I think business analyst is very important for my company in order for us to make data-driven decisions. And hence, we do see a lot of these job titles that's coming up. All right. And the next role is what we call a data engineer. Okay, so a data engineer, they work in a variety of settings. What they do is they build systems to collect, manage, and convert this raw data into usable information for data scientists and business or data analysts to interpret. All right, so in a nutshell, basically they build an infrastructure for the collection of data. All right, and then with the infrastructure that's already built up and the collection of data is flowing into the pipelines, all right, then it then gets then the data analyst or the data scientist can then tap on this infrastructure to pull out the relevant information they need to pull out. And what kind of qualifications do you need? Okay, so here I have to say that you need to have really, really good programming skills to be a data engineer. All right, some interest that you probably should have, all right, is learning about Python, Docker, or Google Cloud. A lot of times right now in the industry, we are seeing that information are all stored in, or the data are all stored in the cloud. And hence it will make sense for you if you are going down the data track to pick up either Amazon Web Services and then or even GCP or Google Cloud Platform. All right. And the learning path could be GCP, like I said, data warehouses, Airflow, containerization, or ML in production. ML stands for machine learning. Okay. And some of the similar job titles that you see would actually be business intelligence engineer or machine learning engineer. Okay, so this is the role of a data engineer. And then finally, for the data role, the data career path is what we call the data scientist. Okay, what does a data scientist do? Okay, so they are able to perform everything a data engineer do, all right, and then they apply machine learning and predictive analysis to extract critical insights from data. So they are the person behind the algorithms, whether to tweak certain algorithms to match certain data set that they want to actually achieve. All right, so they are basically a tier above what we call the data engineers, but they do very different stuff actually. So what do you need, in terms of the qualifications that's required to perform this role? Ideally, you should have a quantitative MA or PhD. You should have a very strong interest in deep or machine learning. Your learning path would potentially be business intelligence, A/B testing, data warehousing, and data pipelines. Okay, and some similar job titles that you see would be data architect or data governor. All right, but of course, I have not really seen data architect or data governor in the sense of like the job advertisements. But most of the time, what I see nowadays is like data scientist. All right, and that is very much what the data career path is all about. So here's a summary. Okay. Again, I will break it down into 4 different factors that are quite important for each of this role. Whether you have got business experience, what kind of analytical mindset you have, programming skills, and ability to storytell. Okay, so for a data analyst, right, you'll see that they ideally should have some form of business experience. They should have very good analytical kind of mindset. They don't really need to be strong in programming. That's why it's low. But their ability to storytell is high. Okay, because they need to be able to compile all this data. After that, put them together and present to the stakeholders. Okay, so that's why the data visualization skills is so crucial for this particular role as a data analyst. For a data engineer, you see that they don't necessarily need to have a vast business experience, but again, they should have good programming skills, but that's why I rank it as high. And they don't really need to do a lot of storytelling because their responsibility is not to present or consolidate or compile those data. Their main responsibility is to collect data, right? So that's why you see that there's a difference in terms of like the different skill sets that's required. Now for data scientists, right, you see that it's all high. All right, must be experienced with business, have a very good analytical kind of mindset, must be solid in programming, and be able to do must be very well versed with storytelling. All right. Typically, data scientists, they manage teams of data engineers and data analysts. All right. So this is the data career path. So here are some recommended skills to explore online if you want to embark on the data track. So say if you want to be a data analyst, these are the different skills that you want to look out for, or even search online courses that would be relevant, whether it's SQL, data visualization, product analytics, business intelligence, A/B testing for data analysts, and then so on and so forth for the rest of the particular roles in data career path. So yeah, again, I give you some time to jot down some notes, and then perhaps after this webinar again, go and research and see if there are any courses that's available that can help you acquire those skills. Okay. And then the third career path is actually what we call the business meets tech. All right, so I think this is quite straightforward, right? So basically, it's an overlap between business and technology meshed together. All right, and what are the different kind of job roles that are available for this particular career path? So the first is actually a product manager. So what does a product manager do? They actually identify what are the needs of the customer or the clients, and they also look at what are some of the larger business objectives that a product or a feature will actually fulfill. Okay, they also articulate what success looks like for a product, and they rally their team to turn vision into reality. So this is what the product manager do in a nutshell. And what are kind of qualifications do they need? They need to have some experience in UI design or business experience. They got to be very interested in design sprint, final projects, SQL, and some of the learning path that potential or aspiring product managers can embark on is learning to pick up Agile. So Agile is actually a project management framework. Scrum is likewise a project management framework. No code, product road mapping, user testing, mockups. So these are the learning path for a product manager. And some of the common similar job titles that we see will be things like product owner, product marketing manager, product designer. So when we talk about product, right, product could be an application. Product could also be a feature of an application. All right. So it's quite kind of synonymous. And this particular job title, right, a product manager, it doesn't have a very clear or well-defined definition to it. right? It is somewhat like a new term that has emerged ever since, the technology revolution has started since COVID-19 accelerated this whole digital transformation. So product manager, this title is relatively, I would say, new. All right, so the next role for this business meets tech kind of career path is what we call the growth marketer. So what do? They run constant iterative tests throughout the funnel, and then they use results to craft data-driven strategy updates that leave key performance metrics. So they are like your digital marketer, and this is one of the common job titles that you will see. Hang on a second, let me. Okay, I'm sorry. I think, are you guys still seeing my slide? Okay, I hope you guys are seeing my slide. I'm not sure what you are seeing because I can't really see what I'm presenting at the moment, but okay. Yeah. So for growth marketer, right? What are the kind of qualifications do you need to have? You need to ideally have some marketing experience and also a degree in marketing. Some of the interests that you should kind of embark on or even develop a passion for is SQL, data analysis, or marketing. And some of the learning path for a growth marketer will include performance marketing, SEO. I think SEO is something that is up and rising. I think it has been around for quite some time, but it's just that now the focus is really on SEO because everyone wants to get their brand name or the company name or their product name on the first page of Google whenever users try to find something, right? So there's a lot of emphasis on SEO. Then there's also no code and user testing. So some similar job titles, again, you see like growth manager, growth product manager, or growth hacker. All right. And this is for the growth marketer job role. Okay. And then the third role in the business meets tech career path is what we call a digital consultant. Usually digital consultant, right, they typically are self-employed and they work with a variety of clients on multiple projects, right? They are quite well versed in digital channels, platforms, tools, and techniques, and they help businesses to create and implement strategies in marketing, product, public relations, web development, branding, and related digital fields. Okay, so this is typically what a digital consultant do. They are typically, self-employed. And the kind of qualifications that they need to be able to embark on this role is either having a business degree or a vast experience in business. So their interest, right, could be, in SQL, data analysis, and product features. All right, and the learning path would be deepening their knowledge in SQL, data storytelling, and project management. Okay, so some similar job titles that you see would be data consultant, management consultant, or IT consultant. Now you see that, oh, okay, there's SQL, there's data storytelling. So you kind of have the impression that, hey, actually, the digital consultant can also would also probably have some form of experience as a data analyst, and that could be the case as well. So that's why I say there's actually some overlaps. All right. Okay, then the last role for this business meets tech career path is actually the solutions engineer. So what do? They actually work alongside a salesperson, right, to actually discover what are some of the customer's business challenges, and then they create a unique solution prototype to present to present back to their decision makers, and then they illustrate this value and benefits of this prototype or the solution that they're presenting, right, through storytelling. So again, you see that this particular role comprises of a few different roles, like for example, developer, right? Because developer need to be able to create a product. And then as a solution engineer, you got to come up with a unique solution prototype. So there's a little bit of development that's required. All right, then there's also storytelling. Again, you can kind of imagine, oh, okay, so maybe some skill set from data analysts, right? Because data analysts need to do storytelling. And hence you see that, okay, again, solutions engineer, this particular role would actually pick up some skills from other roles in the different career paths. So what are the kind of qualifications that you need to be able to be a solutions engineer? All right, so you need to have a business experience, you need to have a business degree, and then you have got to have interest in SQL, data analysis, and final projects. And then the learning path that you could kind of embark on would be APIs, cloud infrastructure, SQL and databases, solution selling, And some of the similar job titles could be data consultant, management consultant, or IT consultant. Okay. And then some of you might be thinking like, hey, didn't you mention, the product manager role? Isn't a product manager role quite similar to solutions engineer? Because they involve some form of product management, right? Yes and no. The product manager, right, don't have to come up with the product, right? It's the product manager manages a team of developers to come up with the product. But for solutions engineer, the solutions engineer, more or less, they are the ones that develop the product. Okay. Now, here's an overview of this business mid-step career path. All right. And then I have again broken it down into 4 different considerations and why it is as such, or why I rank it as such. So here we have business, analytics, programming, UI, UX. Okay. Now you'll see, right, for all these roles, right, all 4 of them, they have business rank as very high. Okay, because they need to be able to communicate, understand what are the businesses needs, their customers, the clients' needs, and how the solution that they are proposing would actually benefit the businesses. So they need to have very high, they need to have vast experience in business. That's why I rank it as high. For analytics, right, you'll see it's medium high. It's not low, it's medium or high. There is some form of data collection or data visualization that they will need to do one way or another. But for programming, you see that for a management or digital consultant is medium. For a solutions engineer is high because they need to come up with the product themselves. Whereas for a product manager or a growth hacker or growth manager, right, it's low because they don't really need to do a lot of programming. Yes, they will need some form of programming skills, right, to be able to extract the data that they need from the databases. But again, it's ranked as low. Okay. And then if we look at the UI UX, right, for management digital consultant is low, solutions engineer is medium. All right. So a solutions engineer, you can kind of like guess, right, could potentially be a full stack kind of developer, right? Because full stack developer, they know front end, they know back end, they need to be able to analyze and do programming, and then be able to do UI UX also. So you kind of like see that there's some synergies along the way. And then for a product manager, right, the UI UX ranks very high, okay, because they need to be able to understand what are the needs of the client, the customers, and then be able to make sure that the product that they create is of value, it is user friendly. Okay, that's why it's ranked. I rank it as high. And then for growth hacker or manager, UI UX is medium, because they need to understand what kind of design concepts for A/B testing would actually appeal to people that would draw the most traffic or the most crowd. So that's why I would rank it as medium. Okay. Okay. So for skills, right, that you want to explore online, these are the kind of skills that you might want to look out for when you are doing some research, because like I think some of you, if you want to break out in the tech role, you may already have experience in business, right? You may already have done some form of the data related roles, and then maybe programming not so much. But then again, these are the kind of different skills that you might want to upskill towards too. APIs, Agile, Scrum, Kanban, road mapping, advanced SQL, user testing, AARR framework, etc. Okay. Okay, so what's next? So I shared with you the 3 different career paths, right? I shared with you about the career path for a developer. I shared with you the career path for the data. And then I just shared with you the career path for business with tech. So the 3 different career paths. What I have not mentioned, all right, I'll talk about is cybersecurity. All right, so cybersecurity is another career path, but I'm not going to talk about this in this webinar, but it is definitely another career path that you can also explore if that's what you want to move into as well. So what's next? You got to choose a career path, definitely. If you want to, join the tech sector, you need to commit to one career path and get going in the future. As you can see, right, whether it's developing, whether it's managing the databases, or whether you want to work as a business IT consultant and all that, all right, you need to commit to one career path, because each of these different roles in this different career path requires a different skill set, and there is not going to be the possibility for you to learn every single technology that's available, all right, because it's going to be quite overwhelming and quite mind-boggling to be able to pick up and learn all those different tech skills that I've just talked about, right? So you need to focus and choose what is one career path that you want to embark on in the tech sector, all right? Because why? This will actually make you more employable because companies want to really see you committed to one job role, whether it be a developer, whether it be data, whether it be like a IT digital business consultant, the business side of things. And then in terms of your applications, right? When you apply, your CV, your LinkedIn, your portfolio should be aligned to one career path, because then potential employers will then be able to know, okay, this is what you specialize in, this is what you're really good at, and this is what you're committed and focused on, and hence they will be more willing to take you on, right? I put GitHub there. So actually, GitHub, right, is a self-hosting website that allows developers to do version controlling when they actually upload and commit their codes. And then they can also allow employees to look at the portfolios of projects that they have developed, which is more so for which is mostly used by developers. Okay, yeah, in case you're wondering. And then focus your learning. Okay, focus your learning by upskilling yourself with the right technologies, and don't be distracted because there will be so many technologies out there. And again, like I said, you can't learn everything within a short time span of maybe 1 month, 2 months. You really need to commit yourself for maybe a good 3 months to 6 months to be able to pick up each of these skills that I've talked about. So focus your learning and upskill yourself with the right technologies. Because if, let's say, for example, if you're planning to embark on a data role, you don't really need to learn a lot on front end, right? Like you don't need to learn about UX, UI unless you are embarking on a data analyst role. Okay, so you need to make sure that you are upskilling yourself with the right technologies when you search online. Okay, and when you commit to one career path, right, it helps you to save a lot of time. You actually land a job faster by applying and interviewing for similar roles, because most of the time, say for example, if you are interviewing for a front-end developer role, and you apply for front-end developer role across with different companies, right? The kind of questions you get, the technical interviews, the technical questions that the employers or interviewers will ask you would be more or less quite similar. All right. Versus if, let's say, for example, you apply front end and you apply for back end role, and then now you got to understand, oh, okay, you got to kind of like split your time between learning the front end and the back end, getting yourself familiar with the kind of back end questions that employees will ask. I think more so for full stack. So if you are embarking on full stack developer role, right, then you got to really be able to understand the front end and back end at the back of your hands. Okay. So choose a career path. And then you got to check out your course offerings that's available. So I have a QR code over here. This QR code will bring you to the IMDA's TIPP program. So this Tech Immersion and Placement Program, right, is actually an initiative by IMDA to convert non-ICT professionals into industry-ready ICT professionals. So you should check out this program because if you want to break into the tech sector, you got to equip yourself with certain skills, right? And some of these boot camps that are offered under the TIPP program are actually very successful in converting non-ICT professionals into industry-ready ICT professionals. Okay, so this is something that you got to check out if you really want to commit yourself to landing a role in the tech sector. Okay, so I leave the QR code there if you want to scan and then bookmark that page. Please feel free to do so. And these are some of the references that I've made in my presentation. So the first reference that I made is the Future of Jobs. That was a report published by World Economic Forum. And then the second reference that I made was to a commentary that was published on Today Online. Okay. And it's time for a question and answer session now. If you've got any questions about my presentation, any questions at all, just type it in the Q&A chat box, and then we can then address your questions. Okay, so I've got one question about showing the qualifications of a digital consultant slide. Okay, so let me jump back to that. Okay, digital consultant slide. Okay. Okay, so this is the qualifications for digital consultant slide that I think someone requested for in the Q&A. Okay, all right, I've got one interesting question. what if I am to be a CTO of a startup? Which role would set me in the right path? Okay, I have to be upfront. Okay, this is a very difficult question to answer because it depends on the size of the business. Is it big or small? But since you mentioned a startup, right? What I do kind of envision is that a startup would be probably much an all-rounder. Okay, so in terms of a CTO of startup, I think you probably would be managing a team of developers to produce or to create a product, right? And then on the business side of things, you're probably like the right hand or left hand man of the CEO of the company, right? Just to make sure that in terms of what is expected of the product that you're developing, you're always keeping in touch with the CEO to understand, is this the vision that we are going for with the product that we're developing, right? So in terms of the CTO of a startup, it's very hard for me to say, what kind of role would set you in the right path. But, usually CTO of a startup, right, in specifically startup only, they need to be very well versed with what the developer, do on a day-to-day. And hence the programming skills, right, I would rank it as high for the startup because you need to be able to manage the team of developers. And hence, you need to understand where they are at and how you're going to lead them. And hence, there's a little bit of product management there, right? As you got to take on the role of a product manager to make sure that your team is on track to deliver the product or the feature that the client is expecting of, whatever you are building, right? So there's a little bit of product management there. Then there might be also some data kind of roles that or skill set that's involved. Why? Because you might need to extract out, like maybe say for example you're building an app, right? How many users have installed the app, and how many users have installed the app for maybe say 3 days and then thereafter they deleted the app? And you need to have all these kind of data, right? And you need to consolidate, how are you going to collect this data, where are you going to collect this data, how are you going to store them, and how are you going to organize them? And then maybe you might need to present it to maybe the stakeholders on the board to say that, okay, this is how the app or this product has been performing, and what are the kind of action steps we need to take to make sure that we hit the targets or the goals that we want to achieve. Okay, so this is what I would envision, if you are to be a CTO of a startup. Okay. We've got more questions coming in. Wow, thank you so much for all your questions. Really heartening to hear, to see all your questions. Okay, someone asked about the copy of the slides of after the webinar. Sorry, this one I have to check with SkillsFuture Singapore. So yeah, this one I don't have an outright answer for that. Okay, let's see what other questions. Okay, what course do you recommend if you want to be a data scientist? Okay, so if you want to be a data scientist, right, again, it is very dependent on whether you are working for a startup or a big company. Usually big companies that hire data scientists, right, they require their data scientists to have qualifications or PhD in quantitative analysis or math or statistics. Okay, that is for bigger companies. And then for small startup companies, right, they may not have such an expectations on them. Okay, so it really depends on what kind of companies that you want to work. But if, let's say, for example, if you are coming in from a non-tech background and you want to be a data scientist in the tech sector, right, you can actually look at the different boot camps that are offered, such as boot camp in data science or certificate in data science, right? These are the kind of roles that these are the kind of courses that you can actually embark on to become data scientists. We have got our own students who have took up our courses with the Wagon, right? And then they become data scientists with some of the companies out there. So you can look out for a data science course if that is what you're asking and that's what you want. Okay, some other questions. Wow, lots of questions. Okay, let me see. Will a tech company be willing to take in somebody with only tech academic and zero experience? Now, I have to say this, okay? We have got a lot of students that come to us with no tech background at all, and they went through the TIPP program with IMDA, all right, and then they managed to successfully find a job in the tech role or land a tech role within 3 months after completing the program. All right, so it is possible, even if you have no academic experience, like computing science degree, or you've got zero experience with tech, you definitely can join a tech company. That they will be more willing to take in if you are able to perform during your technical interviews and you're able to show that this is the product that you've built and developed during your course or your program that you have probably just completed under the TIPP. All right. So yes, there are companies that are willing to take in somebody with no tech experience. Okay, so there's also some stuff. Okay, thank you for sharing the points on qualifications. Interests are very helpful. You have mentioned that developer roles don't require qualifications, but it appears that industry is quite attracted towards CSDB holders. Is the industry shifting from hiring CSDB holders to opening up to mid-career shifters who recently learned the relevant skills? Yes. So like I shared earlier on, yes, the industry is definitely shifting from hiring just people with CS degree holders to opening up to mid-career shifters. In fact, quite interesting one is that we do have computing science students, right, who join our boot camps. Yeah, so I think we definitely do see, the industry opening up, right, to those who don't have tech background and non-CS degree holder. So it's definitely possible, and it's definitely shifting. What is the difference between data analysts and business analysts? Well, data analysts and business analysts, they are actually quite similar in a sense. But it again depends on what the JD or the job description actually explains to or tells you that the company that you're applying for. So you got to understand what is the requirement of the company. Because I can't tell you offhand whether is there really a concrete difference. There is actually a concrete difference because, like, for example, a data analyst could just be analyzing data. But a business analyst, right, they analyze data and they have to come up with data visualizations to share with or come up with presentations to actually share with their stakeholders about where the business is going, what kind of decisions they should kind of make. As in, it's not the business analyst that tells people what to do or what action to take, but they present the facts, right? So in terms of data analysts and business analysts, there are actually similarities in terms of what they do, but it's just that the business analysts focus a little more on the business side of things also. Okay. What are the salary range for the different roles? Seems like data scientist has highest pay. Again, it really depends on the company, the size of the company, and the role that you play. But generally, yes, we do see data scientists being paid quite high. I think it's not just data scientists, to be honest. In fact, across the board, as I shared with you, the 3 different career paths is all in demand, right? There's a lot of there's a shortage in terms of the tech talents in the tech sector globally. It's not just in Singapore. Globally, right? There's a shortage. So whoever can give the highest paycheck, right, or can offer the highest paycheck, right, they definitely would get all these professionals to join them as compared to those who don't have a bigger budget. But I mean, I would say that it's a favorable job market to be in, right? And it's definitely a good prospect for job seekers who wants to go into the tech role. Okay. What are the recognized schools to embark on, whether online course or boot camps are recognized? I can't say for sure. There is like a accreditation of sort. It again, like I said, it really depends on the employer, right? Whether they see that whatever you've learned can be applied in the positions that they are hiring for. Okay, so I can't say that there is a recognized school that you can go to. I can't say that if you come from a non-computing science background, having a non-CS degree, for example, you can land a role or you can't land a role. It's very hard to say because ultimately it's you and the employer, right? And if the employer recognizes that, hey, you as a person, you got no CS degree, but you can do the job, then they will definitely hire you because you can do the job that they need you to do. All right. All right. So that's for one of the participants who asked, is there any role within tech industry where you need not have knowledge or experience in programming and data analysis skills, more towards business development role? Yes, there is. There are some roles within the tech industry where you do not need to have knowledge or experience in programming or even data analysts, but more towards the business development role. I would say this is more like the growth marketer. The growth marketer or the product manager, you would definitely need to have a little bit of programming. I would say zero, not say zero entirely. You still kind of need to have a little bit of programming knowledge to work in tech sector, because you kind of need to understand how product and features work before you can sell, right? So yeah, that's why there is that technical bit that you still have to, that hurdle that you have to overcome, I would say. Yeah. Is there any age requirements or age barrier for mid-career ICT conversion applicants? No, there isn't. There really isn't. I mean, not that I know of. So yeah. And then, is there any bootcamp course with industry attachment to gain real job experience? So far, right, I have not seen a bootcamp course that has industry attachment to it. What I've seen so far is that after the bootcamp, the service providers will then prepare a series of workshops to upskill their participants to be able to meet whatever that's required of the industry. So some companies, right, what they do is that when they hire the bootcamp graduates, they actually have a 1 to 2 months onboarding program, because some of the companies, right, they don't use the tech stack that the bootcamp teaches, and hence there is some form of knowledge gap that needs to be bridged. So in order for them to bridge that gap, they would have a 1 to 2 months onboarding experience for the new bootcamp graduate, right, to be mentored or partnered or buddy up with another employer in the company, maybe a senior developer in the team, to do pair programming or to work on solutions and discuss about certain technologies that they use in the company, because every company uses different systems, right? And they all use different technologies, which is why there will definitely be the onboarding experience that employer would offer to new hirees, right? Because it is not fair for you to know everything. You couldn't be able to know everything even after you go through the bootcamp, right? You would have the fundamentals for sure, but you will not be able to know for sure, okay, what is the specific feature or what is the specific programming language that the companies use until you join the company, right? So these are some systems of the companies that they use that you eventually be introduced to when you join the company. So yeah, I would say that to gain real job experiences, you have to join the company in order to find out. Yeah. Okay. Let me see what other questions that I have not answered yet. Okay, so which role has a fixed working hour routine and the easiest entry in shortest time, say next month? Okay, so this question, right, a little bit tough to answer, yeah. Why I say that is because I don't know what is the kind of company setup that you are planning to join, and whether you have got any transferable skills or knowledge that could be brought over to the new role, okay? I would say that the easiest entry in shortest time, right, for someone with no experience in tech would actually be the developer role. Like I said, the developer role, right, is really in demand. There's such a huge demand for it right now. And there's no qualifications that's really required, right, like formal qualifications. As long as you're able to prove that you are able to code, you are able to build applications, all right, I think that's what is required of you, whether it's front end, back end, or full stack. So I would say that is the easiest entry in the shortest time. But of course, with the caveat that you are already equipped with the tech skills. So like a bootcamp, right? An intense bootcamp would be about 9 weeks in duration. So that's about 2.5 months to 3 months. So once you say, for example, today you join the bootcamp, 9 weeks later, that will be sometime in maybe October. And then after you go for job hunting, then probably you get the role in November. I think that's the shortest time, if you ask me. If you are already equipped with the bootcamp skills, right, then next month I think possible. It is possible, right? And in terms of the fixed working hour routine, right, it really varies from company to company. It also depends on what kind of benefits the company has. I know of companies that right now they offer hybrid working kind of model, where you come to work you come to office to work only for 2 days, and then you work remotely for 3 days. Okay, so there are companies with such arrangements. There are some where they require you to be like physical in office all 5 days. There's also like maybe say fully remote also have, because maybe their offices are all based overseas, and the office in Singapore is a very small one. So you only need to maybe touch base with a few people overseas, and hence your work is all fully remote. So there are this kind of working hour routine. Otherwise, it could also be a fixed hour working routine, like maybe say 10 to 5, 9 to 6. Yeah, those kind of timings. Okay. Hi, Melvin. Can you advise on the cloud computing arena on the job qualifications and desired learning for this? Okay. So, this is a very interesting question because, like I said, a lot of things right now are moving towards the cloud. And there are but three major cloud service providers that are quite common in Singapore. One is GCP, Google Cloud. And then the other one is AWS, Amazon Web Services. And then the last one is the Alibaba. These are the three. And because a lot of companies are moving their web applications, their data, etc., all this to data, right? To the cloud, right? There is actually incentive for you to pick up each one of these, whether it's Alibaba, whether it's AWS, or whether it's GCP. So focus on one track, right? I don't encourage you to pick up all three. Unless you really have the time. But focus on one track. And currently, I think what is mostly used in the market right now is both AWS and GCP. These are the two that you might want to consider learning and picking up some cloud skills related in this area. All right. And then, are there any more questions? Okay. Do big tech companies like Meta, Google take in mid-career non-IT applicants? Yes, they do. But again, it depends on the role that is being offered by them. So I can't say for sure whether I can say for sure they do take in non-IT applicants mid-career, but I can't say for sure that it's easy to get in, because they might want to they might need the candidate, or they might need the particular job position that they're advertising for, right, to be able to perform a certain set of roles that may be IT related. Like you shared, right, big tech companies, they do hire tech roles mainly. But if they do hire non-tech roles, right, there will be some form of technical stuff that you still have to learn, I would say. So yes, they do take in mid-career non-IT applicants. Okay. So I don't know whether there's any more questions, but I hope it has been a fruitful session for everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday afternoon. Taking your precious time off to understand a little bit more about the tech industry, what are different roles and job opportunities that are available. I would say that it is an exciting time to be in, because I say for sure, that there's definitely demands, and right now the supply of professionals to meet those demands is definitely not possible, even in the next 7 years or so. So it's definitely in your favor if you really choose to commit on one career path, upskill yourself to the level where the skills that as I shared with you earlier on, upskill yourself in those different areas, and then gradually commit to that. And I'm very sure you guys will be able to meet aspirations of working in the tech sector. It's never too late to start. It's never too late to start. It's never too late to learn. There's always something new to learn every day. And I think, like I shared earlier on, the window of opportunity to learn is getting shorter right now because of this tightly constrained labor market. And hence, companies out there, they would definitely be looking out like, okay, maybe this guy got very little experience, 1 year experience or less than 1 year experience. They will be willing to take it in because really there's just so huge demand for it. And they take in, right, they will still train, they will still do their own onboarding and training for you so that at least you can bridge the knowledge gap there. Then from there on, you can progress. Okay, so I think that's what I have to share. And I will now be handing this back to Celestine to wrap up the session. All right, so thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Melvin. We hope that you have taken away some pointers and insights from this webinar. If you need guidance on your tech upskilling journey, you can sign up for the free one-to-one skills and training advisory session with SSG's Skills Ambassadors. They will have a conversation with you to understand your needs and objectives. It could be a new skill you're looking for to enhance your employment prospects or for your career transition plans, and share with you the relevant information. These include course search and recommendations, types of assistance schemes and funding, SkillsFuture credit, and other resources on My SkillsFuture portal. There are 3 ways to find or contact a Skills Ambassador. Visit us at any of the locations indicated on the map. Please note the operating days and time. They will provide you with suitable course recommendations based on your career goals. Simply scan on the QR code and click on the link on the chat to register, and they will reach out to you within 3 to 4 working days. We have now come to the end of our session. We would appreciate if you could take a minute to fill in the feedback form by scanning the QR code. Once again, thank you for taking time to join us in our webinar. Do check out the upcoming webinars on our SkillsFuture Festival website. Goodbye.